Welcome to the Deep Dive Library, where raw truths meet real growth. No fluff, just bold talks on business, money, and mindset. Ready to level up? Let's dive in. Today, we're tackling a question I know so many of you grapple with. How do I overcome procrastination? We hear it all the time, don't we? People sharing struggles with delaying tasks, even the ones they genuinely want or need to get done.
Absolutely. It's that frustrating feeling, right?
Yeah.
You know what you should be doing. Maybe you even want to do it, but you just don't.
Exactly. And listeners are asking for practical strategies, things they can actually use to boost productivity, get that motivation flowing again. Questions like, why do I do this? Or how can I finally beat procrastination and manage my time better?
Yeah, and what daily habits can actually help me stop this for good? Or how do I stay motivated to finish things? These are the core issues.
Precisely. So to really unpack this, we've gathered insights from several key sources. We're looking at James Clear's work on habits, atomic habits.
Right, fantastic stuff there.
And Brian Tracy's very direct approach in Eat That Frog.
A classic for a reason.
Definitely. We've also got Neil Fiore's The Now Habit, which really digs into the psychology behind it all.
Which is crucial, as we'll see.
And we're weaving in findings from academic research, too, looking at the psychology of procrastination, self-regulation, and, effective time management principles.
Our mission today, really, is to cut through the noise, to distill actionable steps, understand the why behind the delay, and hopefully give you a clearer path forward.
A path to taking control of your time and your tasks. So where should we start? Maybe with defining what we're actually talking about.
A good idea, because procrastination, it's more than just laziness, right? Steele's research, which looked at tons of studies, defines it pretty clearly. It's about voluntarily delaying something you intend to do.
Okay, voluntarily.
Even though you expect to be worse off because of that delay. That's the key part. You kind of know it's not going to end well, but you do it anyway.
Right, so it's not just poor time management, though that can be part of it. It's deeper.
Exactly. It's fundamentally a failure in self-regulation. It's about managing yourself, your impulses, your emotions, more than just managing the clock.
That really resonates because I think many of us think, I just need a better planner or a new app.
Right, the external fix.
Yeah. But you can have the perfect schedule laid out and still end up, scrolling social media or tidying your desk for the 5th time instead of starting that big report.
Precisely. And that leads straight into another really important point. Willpower alone often isn't the answer.
Oh, interesting. We tend to think highly disciplined people just have more grit, right?
Well, maybe. But the research, especially work like Clear's touches on, suggests something else. People who seem super disciplined, they often aren't relying on constant heroic acts of willpower.
So what are they doing?
They're structuring their lives. They design their environment to minimize temptations in the first place. They make the good habits easy and the bad habits hard.
Ah, okay. So it's less about fighting the urge constantly and more about setting things up so the urge doesn't hit as often or as hard.
Exactly. It's about being an architect of your environment, not just wishing you were stronger.
That's a powerful shift in perspective.
Yeah.
And it connects to the emotional side you mentioned, the self-regulation failure. Because often we're not delaying the task itself, but the feelings associated with the task.
You've hit the nail on the head. Procrastination is very often an emotion management strategy. A somewhat maladaptive one, maybe, but a strategy nonetheless.
Like what kind of emotions?
Oh, fear of failure is a huge one. If you're worried you won't do well, putting it off avoids that feeling. Temporarily.
Makes sense.
Or feeling completely overwhelmed by the size of a task.
Yeah.
That feeling is uncomfortable, so procrastination offers immediate relief. Anxiety about being judged, boredom with the task itself.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to the overwhelm one. Staring at a massive project, it's just easier sometimes to check email instead.
It feels safer in the moment, doesn't it? Your brain is trying to protect you from that discomfort. And sometimes these emotional patterns, these triggers, they can go way back. To our upbringing, the beliefs we formed early on.
How so?
Well, think about it. If you grew up in an environment where maybe nothing you did felt quite good enough, or where effort wasn't consistently acknowledged, you might internalize this belief that trying hard is pointless, or that you'll inevitably fall short. This can lead to avoidance later. That inner critic, the judge in your head that Fiore talks about, can become incredibly loud and paralyzing.
Wow. So understanding that history, those underlying beliefs, can be part of the puzzle too.
It absolutely can be. It helps explain why certain tasks trigger such strong avoidance reactions.
Okay, so we understand it's complex, tied to emotions, self-regulation, maybe even old beliefs. But let's get practical. For people listening who are thinking, okay, that's me, what can I actually do? Let's talk strategies. Brian Tracy's Eat That Frog comes to mind.
Yes, sounds a bit intense, doesn't it?
A little bit.
But the concept is super simple and effective. The frog is your most important task, the one you're most likely to procrastinate on, maybe the biggest or most unpleasant one.
Okay.
And the idea is, do that task first thing in the morning, before anything else, if possible. Get it out of the way.
Why first thing?
Because your willpower and focus are generally highest then. And once you've eaten that frog, you've accomplished something significant. It creates momentum, reduces that dread hanging over you all day. Imagine, like Tracy suggests, if you only had today to get the crucial stuff done, what's the absolute first thing you'd tackle?
That's a great focusing question, and it feels like it would make the rest of the day feel lighter somehow.
Exactly. And often that big ugly frog isn't just one thing, is it? It's a huge project.
Right. That's where the overwhelm kicks in.
Which is why breaking it down is so critical. Taking that massive task and slicing it to smaller, much more manageable sub-goals. James Clear talks a lot about this principle, making progress through small, incremental steps.
So instead of write the report, it's outline chapter 1, or even just open the document and write the title.
Precisely. Each small step feels achievable. It reduces the overwhelm, and completing each one gives you a little win, a sense of progress and mastery. That builds momentum.
Okay, so tackle the big one first and break it down. That leads us nicely into habits, doesn't it? Because consistency seems key. Clear's framework is really useful here.
Absolutely. Understanding the 4 steps of a habit cue, craving, response, reward, is like getting the instruction manual for your own behavior.
Right, so the cue is the trigger. How do we use cues to stop procrastinating?
Well, you can design your environment to make productive cues really obvious. Like we said, setting out your work stuff the night before, that's a visual cue. Time to start.
Okay.
And conversely, you remove or hide the cues for procrastination. Put your phone in another room. Use website blockers. Make the unproductive path harder to stumble onto.
Making the good habits obvious, as Clear says. Then comes the craving, the motivation driving it. How do we make ourselves want to do the productive thing?
This is where making it attractive comes in. You could pair the task with something you enjoy. Clear calls this temptation bundling.
Like, I only get to listen to my favorite podcast while I'm doing expenses.
Exactly. Or maybe you reframe the task by focusing on the benefit, the feeling of relief or accomplishment you'll have afterwards. Visualize that success.
That makes sense.
And crucially, be specific about when and where you'll do it. That's the power of implementation intentions. I will write for 30 minutes at 9 a.m. at my desk. It removes the friction of deciding in the moment.
Yeah, that decision point is where I often falter. Should I do it now? Maybe later?
Right. That intention takes the decision out of it. Then comes the response.
Yeah.
The actual habit. The key here. Make it easy.
Easy, even if the task itself is hard.
Make starting easy. Lower the barrier to entry as much as possible. 2-minute rule. Just do it for 2 minutes. Open the file. Put on your running shoes. Make the first step ridiculously small.
I like that. 2 minutes feels doable for almost anything.
It does. And often, once you start, you keep going. And finally, the reward. It needs to be satisfying.
So, acknowledge the win.
Yes. Give yourself immediate credit. Track your progress visually. Maybe a small treat after completing a block of focused work. Something that tells your brain, hey, doing that was good. Let's do it again.
Cue, craving, response, reward. Make it obvious, attractive, easy, satisfying.
That's the loop. And you can stack habits too, right? Attaching a new habit you want to build onto one you already do without thinking.
Like, after I finish my morning coffee, I will immediately spend 5 minutes planning my day.
Perfect example. You leverage the momentum of the existing habit. And all this reinforces what we said earlier about designing your environment.
Right, making the physical space support the actions you want to take. Dedicated workspace, minimize distractions.
It sounds simple, but it's incredibly powerful. You're making focus the path of least resistance.
Okay, so we've got strategies for tackling tasks and building habits, but what about the internal stuff? The mindset, that inner critic we talked about.
Ah, yes, the mental game. This is huge. Neil Fiore's work is really strong here. He talks about challenging those negative automatic thoughts.
The "I can't do this, I'm too tired, I'll fail anyway" thoughts.
Exactly. The first step is just noticing them, recognizing them as just thoughts, not necessarily truths. Then you actively dispute them. Replace "I'll never finish this" with "I can start with the first step," or "This is important and I'll feel better once it's done."
It's like cognitive behavioral therapy for procrastination.
Very much so. And a key part of that is Fiore's emphasis on focusing on starting, not on perfection.
That's a big one for many people, isn't it? The perfectionism trap.
Huge. That need for it to be flawless right away can completely paralyze you. Giving yourself permission to produce a messy first draft just to get something down is incredibly liberating. You can always refine it later.
Just get the ball rolling.
Exactly. And connect back to your why. Why does this task matter in the bigger picture? Linking it to your values, your long-term goals, can inject meaning and motivation when willpower flags. Remember the purpose behind the effort.
That adds fuel to the fire, doesn't it?
It really does. And alongside all this, self-compassion. This is vital.
Meaning, don't beat yourself up when you slip.
Precisely. Everyone procrastinates sometimes. Everyone struggles. Berating yourself usually just makes you feel worse and more likely to avoid the task again. Treat yourself with the same kindness you'd offer a struggling friend. Acknowledge it, learn from it, and gently redirect yourself back to the plan.
That feels more sustainable than constant self-criticism. Okay, so we have the task strategies, the habit building, the mindset work. What about traditional time management techniques? Where do they fit?
They're definitely part of the toolkit. Things like setting clear short-term and long-term goals give you direction. Knowing what you're aiming for makes it easier to prioritize.
Right, and distinguishing urgent from important.
Absolutely. Identifying your priorities, understanding your time traps. Where does your time actually go? That's crucial. Creating realistic schedules, using to-do lists effectively. These provide structure.
And learning to say no.
Oh, that's a big one for protecting your time and focus. Saying no to non-essential commitments frees up energy for what truly matters. The boundary issue, really.
Yeah, that can be tough but necessary. What about tech? Friend or foe?
Both. It could be a huge distraction, obviously, but you can leverage it. Use calendar reminders, scheduling apps, focus timers like the Pomodoro technique. Use apps to block distracting websites during work periods. Make technology work for you, not against you.
Using the tools strategically. Okay, so we got a whole arsenal now. How do we keep the momentum going? How do we maintain motivation long term?
This is where sustainability comes in. And honestly, the foundation is self-care. It sounds basic, but it's non-negotiable.
Like sleep, nutrition, exercise.
Exactly. You simply cannot run on fumes and expect to be focused, motivated, and productive. Sufficient sleep, decent food, moving your body, these regulate your energy, mood, and cognitive function. They are essential for fighting procrastination.
It's easy to sacrifice those when you feel behind, but it sounds like that just digs the hole deeper.
It really does. Beyond that, creating some urgency can help. Even self-imposed deadlines, as Tracy suggests, can sometimes provide a needed push.
Okay.
And remember the rewards. Reinforce completing tasks, especially the tough ones. Acknowledge your effort. Make it feel good to get things done.
Build that positive association.
Yes. Accountability is another powerful tool. Tell someone your goal. Use a habit tracker. Set alarms. Make your intentions visible somehow. That external element can make a difference.
Knowing someone else might ask about it, or just seeing the check mark on a list?
Right. And don't forget Fiore's idea of guilt-free play.
Guilt-free play. Tell me more.
It means scheduling genuine leisure time, things you truly enjoy, without feeling guilty about not working. This prevents burnout, reduces resentment towards your tasks, and actually makes you want to get back to work feeling refreshed. It's not avoidance, it's strategic recovery.
That sounds much healthier than the all-or-nothing approach.
It is. And finally, regular reflection. Step back occasionally. Look at your habits, your systems. What's working, what's not. Where can you tweak things? It's an ongoing process of refinement.
Continuous improvement for your own productivity system. Wow, okay, we have covered a lot of ground here.
We really have. From the psychology, the why behind procrastination.
Yeah, the emotions.
The self-regulation.
So a whole range of practical strategies, tackling tasks, building habits using Clear's model, shifting that mindset thanks to insights like Fiore's, and managing time effectively.
It's clear there's no single magic fix, is there?
Definitely not. It's about building a system, really. A system of habits, routines, environmental design, and crucially, a supportive mindset that helps you take consistent action, even when you don't feel like it.
And the key seems to be starting small. focusing on those tiny improvements and being patient with yourself.
Absolutely. Be kind. It's a process. Think about making your environment your ally. How can you make starting just a little bit easier? How can you make finishing feel a little more rewarding?
Those small tweaks can add up. They really can. It's a journey, this shift from delaying to doing. It requires self-awareness and a willingness to adapt as you learn what works for you.
So thinking about everything we've discussed, for everyone listening, what's one small, concrete step you can take today, inspired by this deep dive, to tackle that task you've been putting off? Just one small thing.
That's the challenge. Take that first tiny step.
And if you found value here but haven't subscribed yet, why wait? Every subscriber fuels this channel to keep delivering the real game-changing content you need. Hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe. And now, don't miss out on the next episode that could change everything for you.